Do you realize that everything that has ever been born has the quality of that birth time? In this video, we are going to explore how we are and everything that has been born has the quality of the time. Just like vintage in wine, we are going to take a look at the moment of your birth and all of the complexities and how it imprints the quality within us. Let's dig in. Hi, this is Nissa with VNS Mystery School, and you're watching Cosmic Little Lessons. Now, I hope at this point you have watched the Planet series. Now, this is almost a sequel to or the follow-up to that sequence. Now, we're going to take a look at your moment of birth. In the view of astrology, we are time. And for all we know, the fabric of our time, it is the movement of the solar system. So day is the alternations of sun and moon, for example. And then a year, it is the sun's journey through the ecliptic of 360 degrees in astrology as well. Now, since we have talked about extensively about the 7 traditional planets in astrology, some questions have come up. So people, and to answer a question from Blissful Cassie from Instagram, she asked, don't you think there's 8 planets? How come it's 7 avatars of your psyche? And what is all of these celestial bodies as well? Now, let's decode that from the very basic. Every object, every celestial bodies here, it is a reflection of the complexity that we inherently also synchronistically reflecting. So this is the whole philosophy of as above, so below. In this video, we are going to actually make a distinctions between the inner planets, the 7 planets that I've talked about, which is technically we have 2 luminaries, the sun and the moon, and then the 5 planets. That is the, I think, astronomical view. But for astrologers, we refer planets as almost like any significant objects that is prominent in your chart. So for example, we say planets in astrology also include sun and moon and north node and south node, which is actually an abstract point, but it is so prominent that just the slang or the lingo amongst astrologers is just referred as planets. Now, the main celestial bodies that you would see on your natal chart, other than, of course, the luminaries, the sun, the moon, and then what we have learned, we have the 5 inner planets, which is Mercury, the principle of our network, connectivity, and communication. And then we have the principle of our magnetism through Venus and the principle of our action through Mars. And then we have the 2 big bodies, which is the gas giant Jupiter, the biggest planet actually, aside from the luminaries, and then second to that, Saturn. Now, in this video, I'm going to start addressing the what we call Trans-Saturnian planets. That means these are the planets beyond Trans-Saturn. So the thing is, before we dive into these transpersonal planet, we have to think about the context since the beginning of when we have the traditions of us human looking at the stars, which has been thousands of years, and for thousands of years, the most outer realm that you can see with your visible naked eyes would be Saturn. So that's the boundaries, that's the limitation. It's not until the late 1700s, during the age of the telescope, they start to, and the first one that was visible from the age of telescope is the planet Uranus. And after Uranus, we have the planet Neptune. And then, of course, we have Pluto, which is, of course, it's another, scandal in astrology. It's considered a planet, definitely, as one of the most intense transpersonal planet, actually. So in astrology, Pluto is still considered a planet and not demoted status as Plutoid in astronomy. And what's really fascinating is we actually, earlier in our history, we thought Ceres, which is the meter, is one of the planets as well. But now it's actually in the same category as Pluto, as the planetoids. But just to recap here, we have the most center, which is the sun. And then we have the closest object that we have, which is the moon. And then, of course, the 5 that you can revisit. Now let's talk about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and what they signifies in our chart. Well, the realm of Saturn, it talks about time cycles that is, for example, Saturn stays in one sign for about 2.5 years. So Saturn in Capricorn, for example, the length of time, that imprints that Capricorn quality in our Saturn center of ourself. Now with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, here, these are longer time cycles. So for example, for Uranus, it stays in one zodiac for about 7 years. So this is a long transit that when you actually look at times, you can pocket it in different language as so. And Uranus here talks about a part of us that is rebellious, that is ahead of its time and have sparks of ideas. This is the genius part of us that is wanting to blaze the path that has never been walked before. Now, then we have Neptune. With Uranus, we talk about the higher octave of Mercury. Now, Venus has a higher octave in the manifestations of the planet Neptune. So Venus is love, but Neptune, we talk about divine love as well as imaginations and spirituality. I always say when it comes to Neptune, things that we can actually feel deeper when we have our eyes closed. Dreams, music, imaginations, and even fiction. And then we have Pluto. Now Pluto, the most outer realm here, which is a small planet. In astrology, actually this is a very powerful point. I mean, evolutionary astrology covered this topic very, very well. And with Pluto, this is the realm where the death and rebirth of ourself happens. Now, even though the transpersonal planets are, what do you call it? Generationals, and some people, if you only know a little bit of astrology, the whole idea of transpersonal planet could be too far away from the imprints of your personality. Now, unless it is making an aspect, which is geometric relationship with your personal planet. So I've heard people, oh, but my Pluto in Scorpio, it's generational, but it's in the first house and 5 degrees from the ascendant. I think that's really prominent, first of all. So if you have that kind of placement, Pluto here, it is imminent, very, very imminent, because you almost become the archetype of that generations very strongly. So that's the difference between the inner planets, which I know you're going to revisit the 7 planet series. And then we have the 3 transpersonal planets. So tell me what you think. Do you have a strong aspect between the outer planets? Because that makes you a very interesting and even ahead of your time of personality. So thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you for next Cosmic Little Lessons next week. Thank you so much.